What if every non-legendary and non-mythic Pokemon were dropped onto an island in a battle royale, Fortnite style? Who would win? Now, what if we also were to make it just a bit more scientifically accurate than Pokemon tends to be, and take everything the Pokedex says literally? After all, it's the Pokemon encyclopedia of the Pokemon world, so being Pokedex accurate is essentially the same thing as being scientifically accurate. It's not like the Pokedex was written by kids or anything. And that is exactly the question we asked. We, as in myself, as well as TerminalMontage, who made this amazing animation that we're going to be analyzing today. So, if you haven't seen this, click here to check it out. It's basically a hilarious animation depicting our findings on who would actually win. Fancy transition. And now that you've seen it, hopefully, let's get into explaining it all, bit by bit. What Pokedex entries and facts inspired each individual scene? So the first thing we figured out when starting this whole project was which Pokemon would actually survive until the end. Seems odd to start with the end, but that's what we did. After all, there are like 8 million Pokemon, so we figured out the ones that are the most likely to win and worked our way sorta backwards. Basically, all of the fighting you see before the massive purple explosion is to make the video more interesting and hilarious. Meaning, of course, all the Pokemon who survived it are the ones that actually have a high chance of winning, all depending on other circumstances. But let's go ahead and cover this from the beginning, now that that's explained and out of the way. So the first interesting Pokedex tidbit is with Absol, which has the ability to foretell the coming of disasters with its horn. So of course, it's here, freaking out about the soon-to-be battle to the death of itself, and all the Pokemon around it. We then see it get hit by Machamp and flung off the island, followed by several others. So hands down, all 4 of them, Machamp is one of the most overpowered Pokemon in existence. Not only is it stated to have mastered every fighting style, but it can punch any victim clear across the horizon according to the Pokedex. Given the curvature of the Earth, for an average 6-foot person, the horizon is about 3 miles away. Though of course the higher up you go, the further you can see. But this means that Machamp can launch things past that, and that's just the minimum horizon. And that's not even all. On top of this insane strength, it can punch 500 times a second! What? No wonder it's so strong and has so much force behind its punches. To be that fast already implies a ridiculous amount of strength and an insane amount of G's being applied from the sheer speed alone, let alone the strength that's behind it. So obviously Machamp's kill-to-death ratio is insane. And of course, any Pokemon, upon witnessing the sheer power of a Machamp with a literal Pokedex, it'd be intimidated, clearly. Especially a poor little Pokemon like Magikarp. So this Magikarp, of course, gets scared and leaps incredibly high. People often make fun of Magikarp, as it's garbage. But according to the Pokedex, they can actually leap over mountains. What the heck? Though it doesn't specify any specific mountain. But considering the ridiculous nature of Pokemon, let's just go ahead and say Mount Everest. That means Magikarp can leap at least 29,000 feet into the air. Dang! In the next scene, we see Wailord, the biggest Pokemon there is, and fun fact, if Wailord were real, it would be the 6th largest animal to walk or swim the earth. It's a blue whale, after all. But get this, according to the Pokedex, it is 47 feet long and weighs 877 pounds. Now, I'll spare you the mathematical details, I'll have a video all about those here later, but we figured out the volume and the density of a Wailord, and long story short, it's not only impossible to submerge a Wailord, but it's lighter than air. It's a big blimp, and would rise up and up and up in a scientifically accurate world, all the way up to the higher atmosphere, which is probably out of bounds, disqualifying it. Not that its disqualification matters though, because it gets taken out by what is, hands down, very likely to be the most overpowered electric-type Pokemon there is. The Pokedex states that Electivire can send 20,000 volts of electricity into its foes, though that information is completely meaningless. Volts don't really measure power so much. It's complicated, but I did do this video explaining all of the complexities of Electivire. But basically, the number sounds high, but without the watts or amps, it could be anywhere from actually insanely catastrophic to... Ow, that hurt a little bit. But then, another Pokedex entry clears some things up. It states that a single Electivire can provide enough electricity for all of the buildings in a big city for a year. God! What? It's... So how big is a big city? It probably doesn't mean Tokyo, a mega metropolis, maybe not even like New York City, or maybe not even like San Francisco or Seattle. If you ask me, a Pacific Northwest pride jerk, like the rest of all of us here, I feel like Portland, Oregon would be a good minimum city to look at. It's the biggest city in Oregon, and definitely a big city, but not a huge one. So Portland, Oregon uses about 12,000 kilowatt hours a year, or 38.8 a day. I'll spare you the complicated details, but again, they're here. But this basically means that Electivire is a small lightning storm, as one lightning bolt can contain 1,400 kilowatt hours worth of electricity. But Electivire can choose where the lightning goes, giving it insane power. And summoning that much power in one place would only attract a real lightning storm to occur, of which Electivire can probably control. And note, again, this is on the very, very low end. If you go to the opposite extreme of a big city like Tokyo, which is a traditional big city for those living in Japan, like Pokemon's developers, we're now looking at, instead of 12,000, 14 billion. So, that's the range we're dealing with here. Electivire is insane. If Portland, Oregon, a small big city, is a small lightning storm, just try to guess what Tokyo is. So if Electivire got mad enough, it could also get an insane KD, just by summoning a lightning storm of insane power, and basically taking out every water type in the nearby sea, and all of the flying types in the air. And that's what it does. God. Just think of the smell. Ugh. Now just imagine being a being with a nose 100 million times better than that of a human. That's Slurpuff for you. For context, dogs have 300 million scent receptors in their noses, while humans only have 6 million. But Slurpuff's difference. Pokemon are insane! And stupid. This would mean that Slurpuff has around 600 trillion scent receptors, compared to humans' 6 million. It's really no wonder that it dies upon just smelling Garbodor melting into muck. Both smell so bad that they can cause fainting. Also, the Pokedex points out that muck is the natural enemy to Garbodor, so that's why it's attacking it. It also states that muck is so toxic that a single touch is all it takes to kill plants instantly, and the path it walks becomes barren of plant life for 3 years. Also notice Spoink here stops bouncing and dies. Apparently this is accurate to the Pokedex because this creature, if it ever stops bouncing, dies. Also, Alakazam just blows the minds of the Hitmons, brain over brawn to the max. Now then, few Ice-type Pokemon can match the insane freezing power of a Glalie, which, as the Pokedex explains, can instantly freeze moisture in the atmosphere, and that it uses that power to freeze its foes solid. To do this in a reasonable amount of time, you would need some intense wind chill at less than negative 879 degrees Fahrenheit, which is these and the other temperatures, but you know, America to the end. And of course, anything organic upon becoming frozen solid becomes brittle, hence Squirtle and Muck shattering. Here's a fun one. According to the Pokedex, when Igglybuff starts bouncing, nothing can stop it. It's impossible. Imagine such an existence, just constantly cowering in fear of whatever bounces you, always trying to avoid everything that moves, because if they happen to bump into you, your life is over. Also, this satellite falls into Metang, who doesn't even care, because according to the Pokedex, Metang can withstand a jet crashing into it and not even get a scratch. Holy butts. Also, how do they know that? Huh. Also, it loves to pursue Nosepass because they love magnetism. It gets them off. Did you know that anyone who grabs the hilt of a Honage will have their soul removed from their body? Now you do. Also, Delibird's bag is actually its tail. Gross. Chestnut, with its shielded arms, can withstand bombs! And I want to know who tested that out. But interestingly, Turtonator's turds are also explosive, like a landmine, but no amount of shielded arms or back could protect you from a Blastoise cannon, which can pierce right through concrete walls and thick sheets of steel, making them like the water jets used to cut steel, which are typically put under 30 to 90,000 psi. Insane, and very capable of destroying a building at any given time. But did you know that apparently Charizard's fire breath, according to the Pokedex, is hot enough to melt literally anything? That's what it says! Even Blastoise would be no match for flames of that temperature. So here's a fun duel. Infernape, Samurott, and Decidueye, 3 of the most skilled starter Pokemon there are. Decidueye is accurate enough to pierce a pebble over 100 yards away with its arrows, and it's cool enough to actually pull off dabbing. That's basically what archery is, it's dabbing before you kill someone, you know? Also, Decidueye can knock and fire an arrow in 1/10 of a second, so its battles are decided in the blink of an eye. So clearly it's the victor in this duel, right? No, as it's dueling against the wrong Pokemon. Samurott can draw, attack, and sheathe its swords in less than a blink of an eye as well, so it's just as fast. Also, Infernape has insane agility and martial arts skills using every limb. According to the Pokedex, no Pokemon can match its quickness, meaning it's also quicker than Samurott and wins that duel as well. So Tyranitar is insane, and could very easily win this Battle Royale given the right circumstances. After all, according to the Pokedex, it just knocks over mountains. And it just can't be harmed by any sort of attack. Just no pain. Its armor is good enough so that no damage can happen to it whatsoever. But that doesn't mean it can't be launched far away off the island, thus disqualified. Oh, but here comes Arcanine. According to the Pokedex, anyone that hears its bark can't help but grovel at it. Bork, attack. Biff, attack. It's quite the winning strategy. But sound can't travel past a black hole, and Gardevoir can make those apparently. It just unleashes its psychokinetic energy at full power and just twists some dimensions, and boom, black holes everywhere. Oh god. We've got a video detailing all of that science coming soon. Also, if Esper's ears ever open, it creates a massive explosion of psychic power, so that happens. But black holes don't matter to a ghost like Dusclops, whose inner body is said to be hollow and like a black hole. It can suck things up and they never, ever, ever come out. And theoretically, upon eating all of the black holy mass, it would get bigger, so that happens. Oranguru is a very smart Pokemon. It even knows how to throw Pokeballs and give Pokemon commands. So it does just that. It helps out a Pokeball that didn't open. Out pops Magcargo. Now, the reason we had Magcargo saved for later was to add all of the extra fun stuff we've already covered, because the first question at the very beginning of this was, of course, which Pokemon could actually survive the Magcargo explosion? Since those would be the only ones with any chance to win it all. So here's a scientific bit. Magcargo is said to be 18,000 degrees, nearly twice as hot as the surface of the sun, which is insane, but not as crazy as many people think it is. We did a video, I keep pointing the wrong direction, we did a video here that explains all of this in more detail, but basically, because of the way thermodynamics actually works, and taking into account the Pokedex listing of Magcargo's height and weight, it wouldn't actually be all that bad to be relatively close to you. But you would get burns and cook alive if you were standing like right next to it, but 100 feet, you'd be fine. Just kind of uncomfortable. But what is especially interesting is if this Pokemon were accurate to science, it would be a light purplish color, like shiny Magcargo. But if Magcargo isn't actually all that dangerous, then why does it create a huge shockwave of death that wipes out the island? Well, because realistically, releasing a Pokemon from a Pokeball is converting energy into mass. And heat, hot energy, has a lot to do with that. Releasing any Pokemon from a Pokeball would realistically create a shockwave. But when all the Pokemon are coming down at the same time, they'd likely be fine. The shockwaves are just going all over the place, the Pokemon are still just being converted, so, you know. Also, if they all just blew each other away, it'd be like a 2-second video. That's no fun. But Magcargo's shockwave specifically would be crazy because of its insane heat that's completely throughout its whole body. Ridiculous. This shockwave takes out basically the last bit of HP most Pokemon have, and any that survive are still blasted off of the island. All besides a few. Gengar can ghost itself into the ground, Alakazam can teleport to safety, Dusknoir can curl in on itself and travel to the spirit dimension, and Dugtrio can pull its head into the ground at the freaking speed of light. So of course, it's fine. Gen 1 Pokemon are dumb. The shockwave would of course carry heat with it, turning Palossand into glass, and Camerupt just doesn't care. It's said to be also 18,000 degrees, internally anyway, also it's really heavy. Also, look, isn't it cute? The Duskull, it has a little noggin face. Ha. Cute. Cloyster's shell can withstand anything and is impossible to open, but it's not holding onto anything, so it gets blasted. Spiritomb is made up of 108 evil souls bound to a keystone, and the keystone, upon being destroyed, releases them all. The evilest of souls. Wobbuffet is able to counter anything, so it reflects the massive shockwave right back at Magcargo. But it still takes the damage, and doesn't make it. As you can see, the tail just left. Now, we're just down to the Pokemon that could withstand the hot shockwave. Mr. Mime is capable of making barriers by minutely vibrating its fingertips to stop molecules in the air. Yeah, you heard that right. And because it's not just 0 Kelvin ice powers, that just means that Mr. Mime has some ridiculous psychic ability. Anyway, it does so, and Alakazam and Metagross are both intelligent and fast enough to know that getting behind this barrier is the only way they have a chance of surviving. Bronzong is heatproof and heavy, and now Camerupt is ready to show its true power, showering hot magma out of a volcano, nearly as hot as Magcargo. But having just survived a big hot blast, the other Pokemon are having none of that and gang up on it. Now, it's the Ghost's turn. Gengar and Dusknoir, the ghostliest of the ghosts. They begin to consume the remains of the Psychic-type Pokemon. The intelligent Alakazam knows that it has no chance of winning if it doesn't retreat, so it goes to meditate in the sky. Mr. Mime's barrier doesn't matter to a ghost like Gengar, which just consumes souls willy-nilly, lurking in the shadows and causing its victims to shake. But Gengar is also Poison-type, weak to ground, and Dugtrio comes in, popping out of the ground at the speed of light, which is all it takes to really defeat Gengar. Dusknoir then finishes them off and takes them to the spirit realm inside of its body, much like a previous evolution of it. It's just filled with a void. Death to all. Dusknoir is insane. But none of this matters, as Magikarp is now falling back down from its crazy leap earlier. This is the funny part we were talking about. Taking out Alakazam and Dusknoir, because after all, a fall from that sort of height would be landing at 400 Gs of force. And typically it only takes maybe 60 Gs to kill a person, so... Death by Magikarp. And then, death by Magikarp again! Oh wait, it's Ditto. Ditto may have won this particular instance of our Pokemon Fortnite Battle Royale keyword buzzword, but like any simulation, there are bound to be several scenarios and combinations of things that lead to different Pokemon winning. After all, if Machamp gets defeated before punching Tyranitar away, Tyranitar then has an insane chance at victory, being completely immune to attack and all. I was thinking, well, maybe it just means physical attack, so you could attack it with, like, psychic moves, but no, it's dark type, it's immune to psychic, egad. The only other thing I could see defeating a Tyranitar would be a flying type Pokemon just carrying it away, dropping it into the ocean, and drowning it. That's about it. Gengar and Dusknoir are the ultimate ghost-type Pokemon, which are already at a huge advantage as they are completely devoid of science. And given the right circumstances, Alakazam has an insanely high chance of victory as well. It's capable of outsmarting the rest. But in this particular simulation we decided to show, Ditto won. Likely just because its ability to use abilities of any of the surrounding Pokemon, at will. It can create a Mr. Mime level barrier. It can move with Infernape quickness. Or in this instance, fling itself into the air like Magikarp. Odd choice, but whatever works. And, like I said, there are loads of Pokemon that have a high chance of winning. Which Pokemon do you think have the highest chance of winning a Battle Royale style fight like this? Non-legendaries, non-mythics. Let me know down in the comments, and let me know why you think that way. That's my awkward ending. Again, if you missed this animation, check it out! Why aren't you watching it? You watched this whole explanation of it but didn't get to actually see it? I'm not including the sounds in it, so like, that plays a big part. It's amazing! Check it! Do it! And thanks so much for watching. Never stop using your noggin.